This is the Masaryk Park in Český Těšín. Looks very nice on a day like today, sunny. Start off with that, there's a shrine there, which was put here in around 1890 or thereabouts. It had been located somewhere else, but a new gasworks was about to be built. So the company that was building the gasworks kindly relocated it here. And that shows, even in the 19th century, there was some regard for preserving monuments. Although the monument itself wasn't all that old, because it's clearly from the second half of the 19th century. And here we've got a plaque which recalls the visit on the 6th of July 1930 of the first president of Czechoslovakia, Thomas Masaryk. So he was born on the 7th of March 1850 and he died on the 14th of September 1937. And in a way it's good he died then, because he missed the slicing up of Czechoslovakia, which happened within a year of his death. Now, a statue was placed to him here, but it was removed quite quickly following the Nazi occupation in 1939. This territory here, as I've already mentioned, was occupied by Poland after the Munich Agreement. That it was to be occupied by Poland wasn't agreed. It was, in fact, the part of the agreement was it was to be occupied by Nazi Germany. But the Poles took it. Goebbels said what a great propaganda victory that was for giving away a small piece of land. Now here we've got a monument to the dead of the First World War. Now, it was the German population which put this up. Now, remember that in Cieszyn, the Germans were the majority. They made up getting on for 2/3 of the entire population of the town, a bit less than that. But nonetheless, the Polish minority and Czech, very much minority, also contributed to this monument. Now, in 1945, after the Nazi occupation, the names of the dead were actually removed. And on the other side, let's have a look at this church over here, Jesuit church, which is also largely 19th century, which we can see here. It ceased to be Jesuit sometime in the early part of the 20th century. And there's my bike. There we have a statue to the 14th century martyr, Jan Nepomuk. Now, I've spoken about him in another video, so I won't do it again. The building which is in front of me now has had a bit of a checkered history. It was a tax office, it was a school, but it was also the Gestapo building here in Cieszyn Český Těšín from 1938 until the very end of the war. This place here was not liberated until the end of the war itself. And we can see there's a plaque on the building which was put up obviously in socialist times. So we'll just go and have a look at that now. And what it says is, in memory of those who suffered and died here, and from their sacrifice was born the freedom and friendship between our peoples. In that case, meaning the Poles who were still then, I think fair to say, the majority, and the Czechs, as this was part of Czechoslovakia after the war, returned to Czechoslovakia. But up there we can see the border, and the shops up there are in Poland. The toilets to the right are in the Czech Republic. The Olza River and the border. Now in this case we can see clearly where the border lies, because there is a join in the middle of the bridge. That's nothing to do with the bridge being joined, there's something technical, but rather it shows where the border lies. There's the marker, Poland, Czech Republic, and there's the other one on the other side of the bridge. On the other side of the river we can see the Avion, which is a cafe, and it's been an inn there from the 17th or 18th century. It was owned by a Jewish family called the Weissners, and there are photographs of what it looked like in the 1930s. Unfortunately, the building which then existed, which is quite similar to the way the building is today, but this one's been rebuilt. When this bridge was blown up during the Polish retreat in September 1939, the damage to the bridge critically damaged that building, and so that had to be taken down. So but the style was retained, as I mentioned. On the other side we can see the Polish control point, former one, and it's now a bookshop, but it retains something of the character of a border post still. And you can see the sliding windows with passports and stuff. You see a sign there for the Cieszyn Venice, so we'll be seeing that a little bit later. That's down there. And on the right is Ulica Głębocka, and I have a photograph of Ulica Głębocka from 1917. So I'll publish that and then compare it to what it looks like today. There we go. That's what it looks like today. And you'll have to see the link for what it looked like 100 years ago. Here we have a war memorial. Now this one's slightly different. This is a memorial to the First World War, but also we can see mention of other wars, including the Polish-Czechoslovak War of 1919. There we have places where there were battles, and these were battles obviously with the Austrian army against the Russian army as well. Here we have in the Polish-Czechoslovak War, Bogumin, which is now in Czech Republic, Karvině also in the Czech Republic, Bystrica, Stonava, Končice and Skoczów. The Polish-Czechoslovak War ended in Skoczów on 30th of January 1919, and then they came to an agreement where the border would actually lie. As I mentioned earlier, the population on the other side of the Olza was predominantly Polish, except for in Cieszyn. Now, let's go into the castle, which is the oldest part of the town, I believe. This part of the castle is now the State Music School, and this is the main entrance, which is, for me, I think, rather curious, because we've got these tiles. Now we've got cobbles here, but as we come in, we've got wooden tiles. Now the point of doing that was so it didn't make so much noise and bother the Duke or the King or whoever was in residence. But it's very rare to see these things. I know I noticed it in a street in Warsaw, ulica Próżna, which formerly part of the ghetto. Unfortunately now the building it's in is now closed, but I suspect it'll get renovated and done up again. And as we come in, we can see that, what's left of the castle, and it's dominated by the tower, which is 29 meters high. It's made of broken sandstone, and it was preserved in the 19th century. So in many places they didn't preserve things, but here they did, which is good. Having said that, it's not all good news, because at the same time much of what the lower part of the castle was destroyed. So the tower survived, but the rest didn't. There we have a monument to Jan Kubisz, who was a Polish nationalist poet from this area, and he sought to ensure that all of Silesia, or Czech Silesia I should say, was included in Poland after the war, First World War. As you saw, that isn't what happened. Now, the Castle Hill is the oldest part of Cieszyn, and people have lived here since the 9th century. But the park itself, as we can see here, this was done up in the 19th century in the style that exists today. And there's trees such as the horse chestnut, yellow chestnut, the ash tree. There's a really nice fragrance. Okay, this is June, so maybe it isn't all the year round. It's very strong, and I don't know what it's from. I'd be curious to find out. And if anybody knows, please tell me. And then, thanks to the ability to edit things, I shall be able to put it into the text. So that's what's left of the inner gateway. See how thick it was, 3.5 meters. And we'll walk up here, we'll get a good view of the Olza River and the mountains beyond. So a wonderful view of the Olza River and Český Těšín from here, which is one of the highest parts of Cieszyn. And talking of high parts, in front of me we can see the Beskidy Mountains, and directly in front is Wyższa Góra, which is the highest point of the Beskidy, which is in Poland. There it is. Now, I had something a little bit amusing. I was talking to somebody, this conversation, he was speaking Czech, and it's not a language I can speak, but because I can understand through Polish and Russian. And he asked me the way to Wyższa Góra, and I understood Lisson Grove, which is a street in London where there used to be, probably still is, the Dole office. Or whatever it's called these days, job centre. And I couldn't understand why he was asking me this question. Anyway, so it's mildly amusing. Now, what we can see, that buildings down here are all in Czech Republic, but the mountains are in Poland, as are the hills above Cieszyn there. And for those wanting to know more about it, we have this explanation in 3 languages. Now, returning to Wyższa Góra, don't quite understand where the name comes from, but no doubt I'll find out. But that means bald mountain in English. Quite an unusual way of calling something. There we have the towers, which have survived. Now here is used for outdoor plays and things like that. I came here on a Friday night and there was something going on which was very well done. Unfortunately, there seemed to be more actors than there were people watching, but I understand that that's quite a common problem. Anyway, this is called the Tower of the Last Defence. Theatrical performances are also held here as well. Can't explain why in the two different places. Here we have the Castle Brewery, been brewing beer for getting on for 200 years. Today it's part of Viewpoints, which is owned by Heineken, and apparently it's still made in the traditional manner. I believe that those buildings are the highest point of Cieszyn, and I'm told there's some fantastic views from up there.